Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed your 2 days with Podar Summit and made fruitful and insightful debates. We at Podar Summit are very happy to have had you join us this year. Thank you to everyone present here for making Podar Summit 2021 a huge success. Now, I would like to call upon our Director General, Akansha Chatterjee.
Thank you, Ananya, and good evening, everybody. Well, I cannot believe that we are at the end of Podar Summit already. I have been consoling myself that all good things like this too has to be concluded. Being a part of the Secretariat has been my dream since 9th grade, but little did I know the amount of work that came with it. I have jumped from meeting to meeting every 10 minutes, listened to my parents lecture me about not studying, and have drafted God knows how many messages in Google Documents. I have often eaten all my meals with Dhruv or Aaron or the OC president. The past month has been like a roller coaster ride. I usually hate roller coasters, but our OC made sure that I had an interesting experience. Be it Kushi, the PR head, with her countless updates and voice notes, or Anmol being the sweetest person in the world that never seemed to lose her temper. Aditya, the head of tech, taught me the art of handling people smartly and patiently. And Adil, the ideal smarty pants one requires to undo any technological errors. Anushka and Avni, our design heads, provided us with uncountable templates after we rejected their first set. Their creativity and genius minds are truly inspiring, and it was quite an experience working with them. Ananya Negi, our head of delegate affairs, can astonish you with her charms and her ability to make her stories look aesthetic. Her soft skills and patience has gone a long way for Podar Summit. Panya and Shivatmika, our IP heads, have kept us entertained, and their quick selection of words or phrases fit every situation. And finally, the Secretariat, Aaron DeCosta, our Deputy Secretary General, or our hot-headed genius, if I must say, a pillar you can lean on in any given situation. Thank you, Aaron, for never picking up my calls on the first try and being the friend I needed throughout this journey. And Dhruv Verma, our Secretary General, the ID leader. Thank you for understanding, teaching, and looking out for every team member, no matter how sick or overworked you are. You are a true friend, confidant, and someone who I can rely on. Podar Summit would be nothing without you. And I would also like to thank Avirat Parekh, who is a true Podarite. When he says that he's just a call away, he means it. Thank you, Avirat, for being a knight in shining armor for all of us here. We always have looked up to you, and we always will. And lastly, I would like to thank the teachers who were there always in the committees and the delegates who attended the conference. I hope you learned a lot and took something back which is worth remembering. This was an unforgettable experience for me, and I hope that Podar Summit continues its legacy just like this every single year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akansha. Now, I'd like to call upon our Deputy Secretary General, Aaron DeCosta.
Thank you, Ananya. Good evening, delegates. I want to begin by thanking the teachers and the school administration for their cooperation and trusting us with the responsibility of organizing and executing an event of such magnitude. Next, I would like to thank you, the delegates, for being a part of this conference. Podar Summit 2021 wouldn't be a success without the active participation of the delegates. Thank you for putting in time and effort into researching in depth about the agendas and debating with full focus and intent these 2 days. I would also like to thank the executive board for their valuable service. Thank you for taking time out from your busy schedules and being a part of Podar Summit 2021. We thank you for conducting sessions and imparting crucial knowledge to our delegates over the course of the committee. The Secretariat, Dhruv and Akansha, thank you for one, bearing with me and my tantrums, and second, for having the spirit and determination to keep going ahead, irrespective of the hurdles we faced. I'm proud to be a part of such a hardworking secretariat. Moving on to the organizing committee. The OC department was extremely efficient. From the PR department making calls and racing to get delegates during school exams, to the DA department calling around 50 delegates every day and keeping the secretariat constantly in loop with all allotments and issues, to the tech department pulling in countless all-nighters to edit videos and design the website, to the design department making several versions of logos, posters, and background, and not forgetting the international press. They played a crucial role in last minute proofreading everything that went out, including this very speech. Lastly, I would like to thank the people who, though not formally a part of the summit team, were able to help us in their unofficial capacity. I would like to extend heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the entire secretariat to my juniors, Dhruv's contacts in the circuit, my contacts in the circuit who helped us get delegates at the last minute, and not to forget Avirat Parik. Without his guidance, this event wouldn't have been successful. Thank you everyone for their contributions. Signing off for the last time as Def Sec Gen of Podar Summit 2021. Hope to see you next year.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Now, I would like to call upon our Secretary General, Mr. Dhruv Verma.
What an honor to be here again. I haven't prepared a speech of sort because I thought for the closing ceremony at least I should just speak what comes out from my heart because uh, being the Secretary General for Podar Summit has been a dream since my first month, which was also Podar Summit 2018. I would just like to thank the delegates and the executive board members for just attending this conference and being able to get the best out of everyone. Uh, I would like to thank our director principal, Mr. Beer ma'am, Miss Beer ma'am, and our headmistress Nitika Bajaj ma'am for the assistance that we got throughout the process of organizing Podar Summit. And I would like to thank the presence of Mr. Srinivas Guruzada for gracing the event with their presence. I cannot emphasize enough on how happy I am to have the secretariat I had, to be able to work with people like Aaron and Akanksha, having the alpha team, as I would call this as, because there was not a single stone unturned to make sure that Podar Summit 2021 is the best that we could ever pull off. I can obviously not forget the organizing committee who put in their heart and soul into Podar Summit, who not only worked till limitless hours and called us at 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. for the smallest of doubts. And I would really like to thank the design team for all the creatives that they made, the tech team for handling Zoom so well, because on an online month, especially, the tech team plays one of the most important roles, because I believe it is the tech team who should be thanked the most for ensuring that the conference played out to be as smooth as it was. And the delegate affairs team to make sure that no delegate had any sort of complaints for Podar Summit, and obviously the public relation team for doing all that they did. Finally, the OC department that I would really like to thank would be the international press. My speech would have been much better if they would have helped me here. But nonetheless, it is what is coming from the heart. And I hope that this doesn't bore you all. I would like to go shorten this out. And I would just like to mention from the process of being told that secretariat interviews are going to be conducted, to the interviews, to a WhatsApp group being formed named Podar Summit 2021, and just the anxiety and the pressure and the excitement that I had before the positions were announced on that group was I thought back then that was the pinnacle of such emotions, but it was just until yesterday that I realized that what real excitement is. I cannot emphasize on how important Podar Summit is to me and how emotional it is for me at this point in time. I usually never joke in speeches, but I'm extremely sorry for that. And I just feel like the hard work of everyone, the organizing team, the teachers, my fellow secretariat members, the hard work just paid off. And it is my honor and privilege to serve as the Secretary General of Podar Summit 2021. Uh, with that, as Aaron said, signing off as the Secretary General of Podar Summit 2021 for the one last time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dhruv. Now, I would be honored to introduce our chief guest, who is none other than Mr. Guruzada Srinivas, the head of PEFA Secretariat and the Global Lead Public Financial Management at World Bank. A former civil servant who is currently the head of PEFA Secretariat and the Global Lead Public Financial Management, Mr. Srinivas works on governance issues ranging from government budget reforms, public financial management, domestic resource mobilization, public sector financial reporting, IPSAS, and he has held various positions in the World Bank as governance lead in the sub-Saharan African region. Before joining World Bank as a career civil servant, Mr. Srinivas held key positions in Government of India as the Accountant General, Director, etc., and was deputed as advisor to Government of Oman. His recent published paper is Critical of Governance and Institutional Management in COVID-19 Vaccination. So, without further ado, I would like to call upon Mr. Guruzada Srinivas to share a few words of wisdom on this occasion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And good evening, my young friends. This is a beautiful day in Washington, D.C., a beautiful morning, and I'm delighted to connect all of you remotely through this Zoom call. First of all, hearty congratulations for the tremendous organization of this event. I followed you on your Insta pages and saw your YouTube channels. Great job indeed. And this points out to my key theme. The key theme is that India's time has come. The way we do things places us in a situation as Indians that we can very confidently say that we are going to be in the coming decades one of the three most influential nations in the world. And probably for you, you are the generation in the age group the best possible situation to be in. So we, the people who came before you and worked around India, we can confidently say that there cannot be a better time than this to be for you as the world is transforming and India is emerging to take its place. Friends, congratulations also to winners of the MUN and those who are not declared as winners. They are also the bigger winners who again are going to contribute as we move forward. Let me take you back to a little bit of couple of my own stories to give you the narrative behind why I believe that this is perhaps the best time to be a student in India with everything set right for you. What's the time? Let me go back to the time before I joined the civil services in India. So in 80s, this is a time I come from a small town in Andhra Pradesh, and my father is a chartered accountant, and he asked me one of the days, go and pay the electricity bill, one of the afternoons. It took me 4 days to go and wait in the queue to pay the electricity bill and probably come back. After the fourth day, I realized that at the same time, the processes in the private sector, they are still working better. There were already things were happening, but there is this gap in the public sector that you see that within the public sector, the performance is not what it is expected. So you are seeing a trend of a kind of a pain points in the public sector. I never had this intention to to change or transform the public sector, but I was immensely curious. What is happening? Why this difference between the private sector and public sector? That propelled me to give up my initial private sector job as partner of a chartered accountancy firm and take civil services exam and move into the government. When I moved into government, I thought I want to know what is it unique in government. But by the time I moved in, it's already different. The change is so fast. I never got to know what was going on in the past, because by the time I joined and the time and further as I grew a little bit more senior into the government, by the time I was working in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh as part of government of India, and that's the time where the IT boom was taking place. Private sector already was in IT boom with Y2K, so India was exporting big time IT professionals all over the world. And for the first time, government, public sector is taking on the IT. And that's when something called e-Seva, a one-stop shop system for managing all the payments, accounting, and financial management was created in Andhra Pradesh. And what you see at that point of time is every other day you will find someone like Bill Gates or Bill Clinton coming and visiting Hyderabad. And Hyderabad was within few years, you could see transformation, which means transformation simply doesn't take time. Transformation needs a start and accelerate, and it moves. And from there, in fact, I had tremendous. I enjoyed the experience working in on the IT developments and the finance and IT interface in Andhra Pradesh, and then I moved to Delhi. In Delhi, when I was working, one thing which caught my attention a lot is there is generally everyone knows that there are individual excellences in India, but that individual excellences, are they institutionalized? Is it process driven? This thinking triggered me into working a little bit more into the UN system. Then I moved into the World Bank, trying to understand what would be the global best practices which can be probably used everywhere in the world, customizing to the local context. And that's where actually the current job that right now I'm doing in the World Bank headquarters in Washington, D.C. So what I do is I review the financial management processes, which means how government makes a budget, how governments implements a budget. We all saw the brilliant budget by Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman few months earlier. Perhaps one of the best budgets in the recent times, very candidly. It was the best part of it is the candidness. So budgets often in many countries turn out to be a kind of a political statement, not meant for implementation, but for a statement. Whereas this particular budget is quite a kind of a candid budget. So when you have a kind of what I do is to review this budgeting processes, the cash management processes, the controls and weaknesses, what could lead to problems, what could lead to increased failures, corruption, and then advise and suggest developing countries, particularly in areas where reforms are being implemented to strengthen. So this experience gives me also a kind of a very strong conviction and feel that what I saw as change over the last several decades is has come to a kind of a tipping point where the acceleration is so phenomenal. India's advantages, typically, what we thought in the 70s, the problem of population, now turning out to be the biggest advantage. Take, for example, how did even United States become the power it is today? It is the power because of the sheer size of the population and the kind of systems it implemented. So you see countries, larger countries playing a more stronger role. Gone are the days where small countries can really manage the overall narrative in the in the world. It will be the time would be the large countries, and that means that there is no reason why India shouldn't be one of the most influential countries as we move forward. Then the education and the technical competence. It's not just to talk about one Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai as an exceptions. It is not the IT boom that the world is seeing. It is the Indian excellence boom that the world is seeing. Lot of publicity comes through these IT applications, IT superstars, because they are really remarkable. But you find superstars all over, which means what the Indian thinking, the Indian structure of way of working is fitting in into the global narrative in such a strong way. And it is the time where we transform that to influence both India and the world. That would be my second reason why we are going to make it into the top three. And the third and the last, the maturity of the economy. Systems are strong. You can also see from the World Bank's indicators of ease of doing business. There are a lot of changes going on, and the pace is phenomenal. It doesn't require a kind of an one-off event to take place for things to improve. The pace will, the acceleration is likely to itself take us to a kind of a different plane. At this point of time, I would encourage all of you that since my hypothesis is that you are the luckiest people in your age group, probably in the world, make the best out of it. Some of you would be probably phenomenal researchers and people who would be making major changes. Not everybody need to make that. The best part of it, in my experience, that I realized is major changes happen very rarely. You don't need to do that. You need to be there in the normal course, identify the flow of events, be there at the right moment and do the right things. That itself will transform it, that it itself will be a kind of a super successful career for you, and also for the country and the world. I wish you all the very best, and I'm very happy to have some more conversations with you in this call, answer any questions, and maybe connect off the call later. And we haven't yet gone back to World Bank offices in Washington, D.C., still working from my home. What you see is a virtual background of our atrium in the World Bank office. I hope to have coffees with many of you in the times to come in Washington, D.C. in our office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srinivas. We'll now be moving on to taking any questions. So if anyone here present has any questions to ask, feel forward to ask them.
Yes, sir. I had a question, if I may go ahead. So most leftists criticize the working of multilateral financial institutions. So what is your opinion on this?
So, very good question indeed. And I even question the concept of leftist. Who is a leftist is itself a kind of a myth these days, because the left and right are quite mixed up everywhere. Even in the United States, which is known to be a very capitalist society, you have areas where you talk of left. Now, the criticism of multilateral institutions, and if I take example of World Bank and the IMF, it is twofold. So the way, for example, World Bank funding works. World Bank intention is what? Twofold. One, you can see on my background, end poverty. Second is boost shared prosperity. Now, to do that, when it is funding a country, the catch is that this funding is intended to not just solve the temporary problems, but make it sustainable. It's like typically going into a kind of a yoga regime, a fitness regime to become fit. So this is part of the package when World Bank and IMF come in, where some level of restraint in the kind of the way it is, the spending is done, more spending oriented towards developmental activities. So that's the kind of a narrative. Now, if you go back historically, during the days when capacity in governments is relatively low in many of the developing countries where these agencies were supporting. I grew up at a time in the 80s when the name of World Bank would be in that some alien agency coming and taking over, like putting a lot of controls on the government and practically controlling everything and affecting the poor man. And the contradiction is the only reason why World Bank exists is to help the poor man, so the poor woman. So that's the whole story there. What you see as a change post 80s is approach of these multilateral agencies have also evolved. There is the very strict conditionalities have also gone down. Some of the conditionalities truly didn't really work. So there were some problems, which is now not the case. Now it is completely the country oriented. So the World Bank funding goes to the country decides how to spend it, and what World Bank brings in is the technical knowledge and collaboration together. So to that extent, the criticism of the multilateral agencies is also that like they bring foreign solutions out of context, and that's something which these agencies are trying very hard, which is a fact. Many cases it won't work. A country, something worked in X country won't work in Y country. So that's where the agencies are also working to make sure that it is very much contextualized. So I would say that a lot of criticism is based on history, not the present. Right now, things are much better.
Hello, sir. I'm Khushi. I had a question for you. How is it to work in the World Bank, and how different is it from working in the government of India? And also, how can one join the World Bank?
Thanks, Kushi. That's a great question. So if I take my personal experience, I would say functionally work-wise, there's no real difference. So you play on your, what I do is to look at like governance institutions from a finance angle and see why things are not working. Same thing I was doing in Government of India, same thing I was doing in Government of Oman. So it's in the World Bank, I'm doing something quite similar. But institutionally, in terms of actual action, so the strengths of Government of India functioning in Government of India is that you would be the person who would be taking decisions and acting upon. You are making things happen and you see the results. So that's a phenomenally be satisfying experience. Take, for example, a district magistrate, district collector, or district magistrate going and doing something in the villages and changing things, or a municipal commissioner changing the city. So that's a phenomenally satisfying experience, direct action. Working in the World Bank, you are not the person responsible to do that. Your role is to influence the person who is doing that and make the person do better. So to that extent, the direct feel of like would be relatively low. On the other hand, the strength of the World Bank is you are not restricted to one country or one state. You are dealing with 30 countries, 20 countries at a point of time. You have this phenomenal advantage of simultaneously looking at several countries. Oh, this thing didn't work in Malawi. Okay, Ethiopia, something worked. Malaysia, something is not working. Bring all that together and go and advise Brazil. So you are learning on the job, looking at so many countries, even experimenting a little bit with your own approaches to it, and then fine tuning and moving it forward. So that's a phenomenal advantage. Also, that the level of like the control, the flexibility that's available in World Bank is phenomenal. So World Bank gives like the international agencies, particularly like the IMF and World Bank, they give like the space for original reflections very significantly and acting upon, because it will be quite completely in your control. So in Government of India, it depends on your position. Some places you get, like I got in Delhi, super phenomenal space to decide and do things. In some positions I don't get. So from that perspective, I find it a kind of an interesting contrast. I won't compare which one is better. I love them so dearly, both of them. So I wouldn't say one is better than other. Both are equal to me, and I enjoyed equally both of them and enjoying. Now joining the World Bank is pretty easy. And remaining in World Bank is even more easy, simply because World Bank takes all kinds of profiles. So it's the whole approach is essentially your technical. You should have a brand. You should have a brand, not more a generalist brand. Mine is quite a generalist brand, being coming from Indian civil service. All civil services are generalist services. They are not super specialized people. While I now specialize in public finances, still my primary background is a kind of a generalist. Typical entry into World Bank is specialization. The quicker and easier way is to specialize in a narrow area, brand yourself, and have a little bit of experience. Two-way modes. Right now, young professionals program is open. This is one of the best entry routes into the World Bank. So through a global competitive process, right now it's open for this cycle. So I guess actually you may not right now be eligible, but in the times to come, you should be eligible for that entry. Two, there are also mechanisms like usually you take a short-term consultancy with little bit of your experience, enter through that, and then get into a kind of a understand the system and then get into a regular position. So it's not very difficult, and it's a great employer for those of you who are looking forward to careers into World Bank and IMF. They are fantastic organizations to work in and very stimulating intellectually as well.
Hello, sir. Aditya here. I had a question for you. How do you see the way governments work change in the post-COVID world?
Aditya, this is an excellent question. So on this, we were working very extensively in the bank with a series of disruptive debates that we are conducting with global intellectuals. These are all public events. I'll later share the link. Maybe in the next event, you can try it. Some of you can connect. So this is to think through how world is going. Governments are changing. The reasons for change are twofold. One, expectations of citizens has changed and are going to change more as we come out of the pandemic globally. So the demands are different. The more resilience towards pandemics would be the undercurrent because nobody is assuming that this is the last. The preparedness for the future is going to be extremely important. The change and shift in focus to health and education, considering the losses we made during the pandemic globally, like we lost decades of progress on poverty alleviation during the pandemic. So all this is putting so much of pressure on the governments. There is most likely in many countries we see a new social contract. This new social contract between people and governments would mean the traditional ways of government service delivery would modify. In countries where there is minimum government, there will be some more government because the government's role again has come to the forefront. And where there is already like with a historic background of big governments, like we in India, we are all inheriting from the structure of big government to smaller government. Right now we are going towards smaller government. We will continue on that track and maybe focus on these key areas and key pillars. Citizen engagement and more closer collaboration with the CSOs, NGOs, that's again another area which would come in a kind of a big way. Debt management would come to be a big focus because debt globally is going in a kind of a very serious, it's exploding practically in developing countries. So in this whole structure, what we expect to see in the times to come would be a kind of a more focused government, normally an agile and a smart government with lot more opportunities for professionals and experts. So nothing matters in the future government. Already you can see the ministers globally, if you take stock of ministries, the typical default minister is a politician who may or may not have great academic or technical knowledge. If you see ministries of finance these days, almost every country will have experts. There is special focus on specialization. This is spreading to all the whole of the ministries, and generally the politics are going technocratic. So the politicians will have to have much more stronger knowledge, which would mean that people like you, who would be primarily focusing as technical experts, would have much more opportunities to occupy very senior positions in the government, even as ministers, merely based on your technical knowledge, even without strong political leaning. So this is the structure we see as evolving, and the new social contracts fundamental would be make sure that no disruption happens to peace. Essentially, social contract would mean violence should not take place. And so to that extent, the renewed focus on poverty alleviation would take place considering the losses we made during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Hi, sir. I'm Ahan. Firstly, I must say it's an honor to interact with someone who's just gotten the COVID-19 Operational Hero Award. And so my question is, now with the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economies of countries, the World Bank has its the WBG response to COVID-19 pandemic. So, sir, what is your opinion on it? Do you think it's proving to be effective?
I would say that generally COVID-19 response on the whole globally has been a real good success if we take into account sovereignty of countries and the need for inward looking, despite all that inward looking standard requirements, because we all say patriotism, but patriotism itself is a kind of an quite a kind of an insular inward looking attitude. So when compared to that, you will find that the COVID-19 response globally has been quite remarkable. If we take the facilities created through the WHO process for faster distribution of vaccines to the poorer countries, the kind of a debt suspension initiative by all the rich countries towards not right now, none of the borrowers need to really pay principal or interest for this period because that money is made available to the countries to go ahead and spend. And the whole narrative that encouraging countries to spend more and not spend less. Normally, we say that cut the coat as per your cloth, so you be prudent in your approach. This is not really time for to be very careful with money, but to spend, because there's what is at stake is lives and livelihoods. So to that extent, I would say that generally when compared to what it would have been if we were in a similar situation, say 10, 15 years, I think the world has done phenomenally well. The pace at which the most dramatic obviously is the vaccination. Now the how, but it's too early for us, particularly on some of these fronts, to celebrate. The reason being, we have not crossed the pandemic stage. We are in the world. It's still very much live. So it all depends on how we manage the transition out. When we transition out, what one doesn't want is that the richer countries, which logically have already come out very well, have a kind of an advantage at the expense of other countries. But all the countries should have a level playing field to compete and do well. We should have, like, the processes should be in a place where we should be in a position to strengthen the institutional framework globally in a way that if a future pandemic is going to hit, that would be resolved. Countries shouldn't go into kind of a debt distress, which you already see. So right now we are spending it in the world. We are tackling it reasonably well. Health side, the doctors and the scientists are dealing, but the policymakers, the governance people and the finance people, they are doing fairly well. But is this sustainable? This time will only tell. Two years down the line, we will see. And we should also make sure that this should not be a means for large scale fraud and corruption. Right now, controls are all lowered. Decisions are being taken at a very fast pace. So are there major irregularities going on which we do not know, which we will end up at a later point of time in a much more serious way? So this is where the World Bank our teams are working very carefully and collaborating with countries. We believe that we have a reasonable storyline of action and energy behind it, right kind of solutions, but the success we'll get to know only 2 years from now, whether all this is playing well and it's fitting well into the narrative.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, it's an absolute privilege to be speaking to someone who, I absolutely admire, especially individuals associated with international monetary institutions, because they have a charm of their own, if I can tell you, their sense of power is not determined by how many peacekeepers they have, etc., etc. So I really admire that. So, sir, my question stems from something that my professor at college spoke to me about, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, the former IFS officer. And his first posting was in Geneva, basically at the WTO. So he was part of the GATT agreement dialogue. So he very specifically told me, India back in the day, especially diplomatically, was not quite
spoken of very highly, at least in terms of how the colleagues interacted and wait. I mean, they didn't really wait for their opinions, etc., etc. I just want to ask you that years later, what does it look like for Indian diplomatic presence at especially financial institutions? Because we, I mean, believe it or not, we're not an absolute economic miracle like China, but we somewhere have achieved so much more. And I think liberalization, look, I mean, the LPG has sort of pivoted us into the world of, say, free trade and economic prospect. And I mean, yeah, I mean, what's it like, sir, today?
Thanks. This is a great question. I want to believe that the bigger success on India's narrative has been primarily the economy, primarily the diaspora, and the overall narrative around that. Political structures in the international agencies, they all inherit a legacy. So at the legacy is that usually the structure of power is quite frozen. The voting rights, the ability to influence, and the connection of groups, which groups work and collaborate together to take a particular decision. You come from a standard narrative. Till a stage, a country goes into a kind of a situation where it can break those systems. So the level of leverage in international environment for any country, whether it is India or any other country, would be limited because the structures are pre-decided. Having said that, what you find is with this emergence of India as a force, you find Indians in all strategic decision making in all the organizations. You find Indians in the discussion and Indians as influence makers, thought leaders. It's more than the power, more than the sheer voting power which carries. Let's take, for example, IMF and World Bank. So the voting power of IMF and World Bank structures would not pitch. India has a very senior IS officer as an executive director, more to take care of India's interests. But the ability to influence the overall decision making is not voting power related, but idea related. How well they come up with a solid idea, how they ensure that people around converge around thoughts. It's the softer aspects, not the power aspects, but the softer aspects which are making India miracle. The India miracle is all over simply because it's taken very seriously when you come with a solution. And Indian, what you say, we may say that this is jugad. People don't like in the international environment a jugad approach, but very many times these jugads are treated as the most serious, interesting things and taken forward in their success stories. So the phenomenal number of ideas that they generate, so they're very well respected in the structures. Now, does it transform, like in diplomacy, institutions and countries, they purely work on self-interest. So in the self-interest, in the combination of factors, if a set of countries decide a particular action, there is no way that that would change merely based on merits of the case. So to that extent, the diplomatic corps would always be working around to build the narrative. I would believe that if you take 20 years back, probably around the dusk, there was never, I lived in sub-Saharan Africa. So uh, there was never an the Indian ambassador was never around the table in diplomatic meetings, perhaps 10, 20 years back. Today, if there is in Zambia, when all the partners who support government of Zambia sit, the Indian ambassador or the first secretary is sitting around the table and is talking about what's the support, not just what support India is doing, but what is the experience of India. Typically, like for example, Aadhaar as a success story and how you can get it going, just to give an example. So that value, knowledge value is changing, which has brought India to places. And I believe that we should continue on this track, not assume that sheer power or authoritative power is going to take us places. It's the knowledge power and the ability to generate great ideas, which is going to place India in a much more stronger position in the global stage.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Guruzada Srinivas, for joining us on this occasion, and we're very delighted to have you with us. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our Director Principal, Ms. Avneeta Bir Ma'am, to address this gathering. And
thank you so much, and many congratulations on the successful completion of the 11th edition of Podar Summit. I cannot believe that these 2 days have passed so quickly. I think I felt this was the fastest, Podar Summit in the last 11 years. I don't know, it just felt like that. Maybe because it was absolutely without any glitches, any hiccups, and it went off so smoothly. So I'm just going back to the words which, Dhruv, Secretary General, he said it was a dream fulfilled, and I think that speaks about all of you. I mean, that kind of is everybody's thought. It's a dream to be part of Podar Summit in whichever capacity, whether you're a fresh delegate and learning the ropes of a MUN, or you've reached the pinnacle of being the Secretary General in your last year of school. It is a very transformative experience, and I've seen it over the years. What difference, what a change it brings about in students. I know he spoke about the interviews, and this is something which we've introduced, I think, in the last couple of years, with Avirat being there, and with technology helping us to conduct these interviews online, virtually, and so the access is so much easier. And I think that's a great skill that you all have learned, to be able to address or answer or face an interview on screen. I think it's a great skill to get at this early age, and so the anxiety and the excitement of going through that process. The process is extremely important, and then of course the relief that at the end of 2 years, 2 days, a job well done. So many congratulations for that. Okay, I have to compliment you on the choice of your chief guests, both for the opening as well as the closing. We couldn't have got better people. Not only that they hold such respectable positions and they were so relevant for the occasion, but also the messages that they shared with us. I think I took away. I mean, I could keep listening to Mr. Srinivas. I didn't want him to stop talking. I mean, it was so inspiring to listen to his and the positive hope that he was giving. The encouragement to the youth, and sir, we're going to take you up on your offer of being in touch with you again, and following up with some more sessions, because especially for students at this stage in their lives, to get some kind of guidance with respect to their careers and their futures, and it's coming from the right sources. It means a lot to them. As much as education, I think they need to get awareness about what is the world outside of school, and the world that they're going to be entering. So that's something that I really felt very good about. Also, outlining the trends in the world, because we are at a very crucial juncture in time today. It's very historical times that we're living in, especially post-COVID, and what are the changes? What is the? I particularly like that question on India's place at the table. I mean, where does India stand, and has it changed? And I think the question that the students have asked yesterday and today, I was very proud of you, students, and also the answers. Very, inspiring for the youth. I particularly was rating, and I think again, role models for our students, because we have I think so far we have one student in the last, let's say, we've had, this is our maybe 18th batch, and it's like we've had one student who has become an IFS officer, who wrote the UPSC exam. And for us, it's a matter of great pride, because you see, the UPSC exam, writing the UPSC exam is like a matter of pride, So, and that's something that really, for me, because I come from Delhi and I know that UPSC, that building where you go to write the exam has this special position, special perception we have about that. And like Avirat said, the Bretton Woods twins, I'm an economics graduate. So for me, studying about IMF and World Bank has always been very, particularly interesting. I've been interested in that. So it was very, very nice to listen to you, sir. I think, I mean, that's what I would feel. I'm looking forward to the reports that the students have got. I'm sure they've had some amazing deliberations over the agendas that they had for themselves in the committees. And I know that Avirat has contributed a lot to the grooming of the young leaders. I know that the Podar Summit, though I initially was, I was very, very, I kind of skeptical about, it being just a snob, having a snob value. And I think we've gone beyond that. And that for me is a matter of great pride. It's not the snob value. It's not a frivolous event. It's something where students really gain the power of research, the power of, putting their arguments forth, and then to have the conviction, and also to be able to accept ideas which are different from, so be able to tolerate and accept and understand an opponent's position. I think that's a great learning for all of them. So many congratulations again. I know that I was comparing today's session, the closing, with the opening, and I can see the the growth that has happened. Today they didn't have to have a prepared speech; they could just speak. So that's what the actual experience does to you. You actually got a body of work done behind you in these last 2 days, which make you speak with conviction. Okay, so a great future for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And without any further ado, I think we should now go on with the announcement of the results for all the committees and the awards. We will start off with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the Executive Board of Ministry and Information and Broadcasting, please to take over.
Hi. So if I can have Muskan, Sara, and Heer, please. Right. Hi. So this is very surreal because in my head this is still not a virtual Podar Summit. So I mean I miss the clapping and stuff like that. But overall, if I am to tell you a little bit about how this committee came into being, what happened was that I was interviewing, in fact, Muskan for a specific position, and I asked her that, okay, suggest a committee, just randomly, tell me one committee you'd like to have this year. And she told me, listen, there is this thing, right, like about how movies or the entire entertainment industry is discounted and not taken as seriously as it should be. So that hit a chord, that struck a chord, because I myself now work in entertainment, and I have realized that, I was talking to this filmmaker friend of mine, and he also told me this, that theaters were the first thing to shut and will be the last to reopen. And look at the careers, look at the number of people that are going to face the significant impact of the entire thing. So we were like, okay, let's do this committee. And Dhruv forced me to basically come on board, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it for Podar, because that's always just been my relationship with the school. I mean, I remember being here in senior KG as well and looking at Beer Ma'am walk by classrooms and her Ford icon and those specific memories that I have. And I mean, I can't just forget that. So I'd always like to thank Nitika ma'am, Beer ma'am, Chitra ma'am, everyone at school who's basically just always been there and is always just as lovely as they are. So without any further ado, also the committee overall, now coming to the committee, was full of, so everyone spoke, right? Which is what I was really, really impressed by, maybe because it was entertainment and everyone's a secret movie buff somewhere. so that was very enriching that everyone wanted to speak, everyone wanted to participate, and I was really, really impressed by that. The level of research was pretty decent considering the number of first timers that we had. But again, people say first timers like it's a bad thing. I remember talking to Dhruv and Dhruv telling me, "Are there are first timers." I was like, "No, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all," because that's the best you can have, because they don't come with any preconceived notions and a tad bit of arrogance. So that's not there to deal with, and that's always so much better and more engaging. And that's truly how you can empower an individual and their thinking and challenge them in the truest sense. So that was very admirable. And again, I'd like to thank the OC as well. So be it Akanksha, be it Aaron, be it Ananya, be it anyone and everyone who I've associated with. Shout out to all the tech members, especially Arav. Really, man, like you are a genius. I don't know if 10 years later, if Apple doesn't hire you, then they're doing something wrong. I'd like to thank Aditya and Adil also, the tech heads, very, very helpful individuals. I'd like to thank the press team. They did a lovely press conference with us, which is in fact, so we mashed it and merged it with the crisis update, which was amazing. And I know I'm praising my own crisis update, but I think it was pretty hilarious, especially the joke in the end about Salman Khan. So it was entertaining, light, but more importantly, we can say that we have a very conclusive piece of paperwork that has grievances and plausible solutions, which the entertainment industry needs, especially from the government. And I'm going to try to at least snuck it into the Producers Guild of India, and let's see what happens with that. So that's something I'm going to try. With that, I'd like to hand over to Muskan, Sara, and Heer, who will also declare the awards.
So like Kavirath said, what actually started out as a off the top of the head idea in an interview to what it is now couldn't actually have happened without first the confidence of a person like Kavirath, that someone giving such an impromptu idea so much importance, and the fact that it's really surreal that I'm right now presenting the awards of a committee that came from that specific moment. And moreover, even the secretariat, they were so helpful and so cooperative with us. So before I declare the awards, I'll move it on to Sara and Heer, so they can handle, and then we can. Thank you.
Yeah, this is my first summit. I've never done summit before, and I have to tell you, it's a whole world in itself. It's an ethereal experience, and I would like to thank Dhruv and Aaron for giving me the opportunity to be here. I would also like to thank Avirath, Heer, Muskan. They've been the most supportive and the most kind executive board members I've ever, coached, co-moderated, co-chaired with. And yeah, the delegates really, really impressed me, and the level of debate was also phenomenal. Level of research was really good. And yeah, it's been an amazing experience for me, and I hope I've learned a lot from the delegates, and I hope they've learned something from us as well. And if they have, then I think we've succeeded in our job. So yeah, that's about it. Here.
Yeah, I would like to thank Dhruv. He was the one who interviewed me. It is my first time chairing one, and it being summit, it's a big honor for me. And I would like to thank Avirath, Muskan, and Sara. They helped me a lot. At first, I was really nervous, but with their guidance, I've been able to get to where I am now.
Okay, so it's my absolute honor to present the awards. With no further ado, the verbal mentions go to Red Chillies Entertainment, Sony Live, and Z Studios. The special mention, we have two, and both of these delegates were phenomenal. So we had the leader of the house and the leader of the opposition. Our high commendation goes to the delegate who was so good at lobbying and getting on the delegate's good side, and who never stopped to make a point. That is the Minister of Finance, and our best delegate who impressed each and every one of us with their research and the way they presented themselves. And that is the Junior Artists Association. Thank you so much for giving us the honor to be a part of this. Thank you.
Finally, I'd just like to say one thing, that a truly best delegate is someone who understands nuance, understands research, and can face any and every challenge. And I think it was this delegate who really inspired all of us. I so wish I was half as good as he is at his age. So he should keep running. Thank you.
Before Avirat, you do take a leave, I would also like to thank you personally for doing all that you did, in spite of being an alumni, in spite of passing out of Podar 4 years back. And genuinely, Podar Summit wouldn't have been where it is without your assistance as well. Thank you. With that, we will now be moving on to the next committee for to reveal the accolades. That is UNW, United Nations Women. Shaurya, are you here?
Yes, I am. All right, great. So hi, I'm the moderator of United Nations Women. This is actually my first time on the EB, so yeah, great experience. My first month was also Podar Summit, so it's kind of nostalgic, although not in the same way, obviously. Unfortunately, our vice chair couldn't be here with us, and also our chair. So I would just like to thank the Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, to just help me out with the chairing. Also the Director General, who was a lot of help. Thank you, Kansha. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. So I would just get straight to the point. Right, the committee was very fruitful. And I'm so glad that everybody spoke. There wasn't certain people speaking and everyone else just with their cameras off. So it was great interaction. And all right, so the verbal mentions go to India, France, and UK. And next would be the special mention, which goes to the delegate of Brazil. And with that, next would be the high commendation, which goes to the delegate of China. And at last, the best delegate in the committee was the delegate of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. All right, thank you so much, Dhruv, for having me.
Thank you so much, Shaurya. We will now be moving on to the next committee, that is the United Nations Human Rights Council, the UNHRC. Ram and the fellow EB members, please take over.
Thank you. Before I begin, can we have Arhan here? Arhan, are you here?
Yes, I'm right here. Thank you.
All right. I've chaired a lot of UNHRC committees, and this was probably the best first time UNHRC committee I've chaired, simply because delegates were not scared. And that is something I noticed an aura about Podar Man and Podar Summit, that it's fearless, it's resilient, it's fearless, and that's something I really admire. And when I say without further ado, now it's not a default. I think as a delegate, I always cursed the executive board members, finish with the speech, get done with it. So I will go on to the awards. So the verbal mention goes to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Afghanistan, and Kuwait. Congratulations, delegates. Arhan, over to you.
The special mentions goes to two delegates who truly confused me during the I did not write this speech. That was a very bad idea. I decided to speak from my heart since this is my first time EBing. Yes. During the committee session, these two delegates really confused me. They argued over every small point, but somehow ended up in the same block. This is the delegate of Russia and the delegate of goes to a truly deserving delegate who raised a point on everyone's speech, the delegate of France. Congratulations. Now over to Ram for the
I think the best delegate award goes to, I'm not going to drum roll here, but the best delegate award goes to the Republic of Finland. Congratulations, delegate. You have won the best delegate award at UNHRC Podar Summit 2021.
With that, we will now be moving on to our fourth committee, that is the World Trade Organization. The executive board of WTO, please take over.
Yeah, hi guys. Before we move on, can I confirm if my moderator Raghav's here?
Yeah, I'm here, Gokul. Thanks.
Yes, all right. So WTO, definitely one of the most challenging committees here at Podar Summit due to the technicalities involved. And to be honest, I was pretty nervous after looking at the delegate list. We had a lot of first-timers, and trust me, I was afraid. But the delegates did not cease to surprise me with the amount of points that they raised, and it was a ball. I loved chairing the committee, and all in all, it was one of the best financial committees I've ever chaired. I shall not hold this any longer and give the podium to my fellow moderator, Raghav, to speak a few words about the committee.
Thank you so much, Gokul. Considering that just last year in 2019, I was on the other side of this. I was actually a delegate in Podar Summit 2019. And now that I'm here, I'm just really glad, and I'm very glad to be part of this journey. And I'll not keep you guys waiting. I'll be giving out the verbal mentions first in no particular order. We have the delegate of Samoa and the delegate of Jordan. Followed by, we have the special mentions now, which goes to the delegate of Zimbabwe and the delegate of France. And even though, as Gokul said, most of these were first-timers, they did not cease to amaze both of us. They raised a lot of points, and they were very well researched on their topics. And I'd really like to thank the Director General Akansha, Secretary General Dhruv, Deputy Secretary General Aaron for their immense support during the entire committee, considering that this is my first time sharing. So thank you guys, and over to Gokul for the High Com and Best Help.
Yes, thank you so much, Raghav. And I know you're waiting for the two most important awards of the committee. So the high commendation goes to the delegate of Lesotho, and the best delegate award goes to the delegate of the United States, without a doubt. And on that note, I thank all the WTO delegates for letting me have a happy session. And of course, the secretariat who came into committee and aided us in whatever manner. They literally said, call us whenever. If you have an issue, we will answer and help you out. Thanks a lot, guys, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. With that, we will be moving on to the next committee, the second bilingual committee that we had. All India's political parties meet, AIPPM, RAN, and the fellow executive board members. Please do take this forth.
Thank you so much, Dhruv, for introducing us. So, hi everybody, my name is Aryan Panikar. I'd like to start off with saying that I'm a tad bit sad that not everyone's wearing Indian today, but that's fine. What I would like to say is, on a serious note, last year I was the vice chairperson for the AIPPM, the All India Political Party Meet. And from the vice chair this year becoming the chairperson, it was a tremendous improvement, and I really, really liked it. Apart from that, I was told that I was the only chairperson from Podar chairing in the Podar Summit. And for me, I liked it a lot, and I was really, really happy. Kaustubh and Ansh, we were so engrossed. We finished the study guide in the first 2-3 days itself. We met and we finished most of it. We made dossiers. We were so engrossed. And everybody's thanked the secretariat, everybody's thanked the teachers, the principal. Yes, I do thank them as well, but who makes the MUN are the delegates. Who work the MUN are the delegates, and who run the MUN are the delegates. So thank you so much to all the delegates. Being in the AIPPM and having so many first timers, that was new, that was shocking, but we managed it really well and they enjoyed, and that's why we enjoyed. I'll now let Kaustubh speak, followed by Ansh.
Thank you, Aryan. So I'd just like to start off by saying a big thank you to the Secretariat, Dhruv, Aaron, for giving me this opportunity to be the Vice Chair of the All India Political Party Meet. It's a committee that I hold very closely to my heart. I was just a delegate last year in the AIPPM at Podar Summit, and to be the Vice Chair this year, it's actually a dream come true. Now moving on to the committee, both days our committee got off to a rocking start, but I think all of us learned something from it, and that's for the best. And a quote which I dearly believe in is listen to understand, not to reply. And that is something that all delegates, I think, followed. And that is how the Indian politics works, or rather it should work. Now I'll be handing it over to my moderator, Ansh, for announcing the awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaustubh. Before I announce the awards, I would just like to thank the Secretariat for giving me this opportunity to be on part of the executive board. This was my first time and I really enjoyed it. And I would like to thank my chairperson, Aaron, and vice chairperson, Kaustubh. They really helped me because, as I said, this was my first time. I was not very sure what to do, but they helped me a lot and guided me. And as for the committee, it was a very engrossing committee. All of us enjoyed a lot. It, as was mentioned before, it was a rocky start, but definitely an enjoyable committee. And I would give it to Aryan to announce the verbal mentions. And thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Aryan. So I'll be announcing the verbal mentions for the AIPPM, best committee there is. And the winners for that are Narendra Modi as verbal mention, Yogi Adityanath as verbal mention, and Sonia Gandhi as the verbal mention. Kaustubh will now announce.
Thank you, Aryan. I will be now announcing the special mention. Devendra Fadnavis and Rahul Gandhi. Congratulations, delegates.
I'll be announcing the high commendation and best delegates. So the high commendation for All India Political Parties Meet for Podar Summit 2021 was JP Nadda, and the best delegate in this committee for 2021 was Swatantra Dev Singh. Congratulations to all delegates and to the delegates that won. Thank you.
Congratulations to those who also participated. So many first timers, and all those who did back out were experienced runners. So it was an engrossing committee. Thank you so much.
Lovely words from the executive board of the All India Political Parties Meet. We will now be moving on to one of the most technical committees that ever existed, that I've ever come across. That is the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So Gia, along with the fellow executive board members, please do take over.
Good evening to everyone present over here. I am an external chair personally. So first off, I would love to thank the teachers, the principal, the headmistress from Podar Summit for giving me this opportunity to chair this extremely prestigious event. I would like to thank Dhruv and Akansha and Aaron, the entire OC, for constantly putting up with my messages on the group and getting my EB to attend meetings on time, from Akanksha to completely letting me do as I feel with my EB, to Dhruv completely supporting my decisions in committee, to all the encouragement Aaron's given me throughout. The tech team was my biggest support. I'm not the best with tech. And honestly, I don't think they get enough credit. They do so much work, the OC, the PR team, all my tech members in committee. I owe you all big time. And of course, the delegates, y'all make what committee is. And I'm extremely grateful for the batch I had in my committee. I had a very mixed batch. So I had 30 timers and 40 timers, and then I had first timers as well. The ODC being an extremely technical committee, I was super nervous before getting into committee. I will not lie to you. I know how rigorous the mandate is, and sometimes how ruthless committee can get. And I love to say this, but my first timers did not crack under pressure. They gave it their all. They challenged my questions a lot of the time. They went on and challenged the experienced delegates. And this is a special appreciation for my experienced delegates. They did not bully my first timers. They lifted them up, they taught them, they helped them out through committee. They stayed up late at night and made sure that their work was done and that my committee was just as good as they were. So, huge props to my entire committee. Debate was way better than I anticipated before I walked into committee today. I expected it to be a little less than what I would normally see in an ODC, given the mixed variation in committee. However, I was pleasantly surprised and I had great debate throughout. I love that committee didn't dry out. I love that I didn't have to threaten them with a crisis for them to get their act together and get committee running. I love how my committee passed with 100% majority during the resolution. So good job, guys. And I'm extremely proud of all of y'all. Small caution, small piece of advice. Do not feel disheartened with the awards. They in no way, shape, or form define you as a delegate. They just inspire you to be better next time. And trust me, first timers, all your secretary members, all your OC members, and all your executive board members started where you are today. A lot of us started with Podar Summit, a lot of us started with other months, but we all started somewhere and we've grown into the delegates and the EB members that we are today. And so can you. Without further ado, I would like to call upon my excellent moderator, Abhinav. Abhinav, please declare the verbal mentions for committee.
I would like to thank all the people who put in their efforts into making this event a grand success, and also the secretariat giving me this opportunity to being a moderator of the UNODC, and the wonderful EB who assisted me whenever I needed any help. So thank you, Gia and Dhruv. Without any further delay, I'll be announcing the verbal mentions. So for the verbal mention for the UNODC, we have India, Pakistan, and the Dominican Republic.
I would now like my vice chair, Dhruv, to please come and declare the special mention for committee.
I started my morning experience with UNODC and I give Gia the credit to help me to reach here. She has helped me with months, so I do thank Gia. I thank Abhinav for managing the entire committee when I had something else and I couldn't be present in committee. The secretariat, Dhruv, for allowing Gia to choose me as a vice chair member, considering my experience. The committee was an amazing committee. Whenever I was in committee, I could see the energy even from the first timers. And the energy is what got my attention, aroused this inquisitiveness that how even a first timer is combating someone who has a lot of experience in the Mann circuit. So here I am, and I'm announcing the special mention, which goes to the delegate of Afghanistan as well as the delegate of Myanmar.
I don't want to take up any more of your time because I know the delegates who are waiting for High Com and Best Delegate have no patience, and you all reflected that very, very well in committee as well. Congratulations to my winners for verbal mention and special mention. The High Commendation Award goes to the delegate of the Russian Federation. And the Best Delegate Award, I'm not going to do a drum roll either, goes to the delegate of Canada. Congratulations to all my winners and congratulations to the rest of my committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gia. We will now be moving on to the next committee, that is the Continuous Crisis Committee. Ahan, along with the fellow executive board members, please to take over.
Thank you for that, Dhruv. Firstly, I would like to start off by thanking Akanksha, thanking Aaron, and congratulating them for organizing this brilliant conference. Then I would also like to thank Sohan, the IT head for our committee. He was there all throughout. Anytime I had to ask him something, I needed him to create breakout rooms for us to go and talk, for some delegates to go and talk. He was always there. It was great having you. And now a special thank you for Dhruv and Avirat for having me here. And when I heard that Dhruv and Avirat are going to be organizing this conference, I already knew that it was going to be amazing. And I think everyone here stands testament to the fact that it was in fact amazing. Now talking about the committee, I would like to thank two individuals, especially that is Krishiv and Ansh. Krishiv, our crisis director, constantly working hard on the crisis updates all throughout committee. I knew that he was typing out something, giving constant updates. Great work. And Ansh was again my vice chair. He was always there. He can be said to be the backbone of committee. Now, most people come normally with the mindset that we want to win best delegate, but rather the mindset should be that I want to come and learn something new today. Because if you have that mindset, then you've already won. At the end of the day, if you go with the BD here, you're not going to get a call tomorrow saying you're getting invited to the event. At the same time, if you don't win a prize and you go to a job or internship interview, nobody's going to say, "Oh, you didn't win best delegate here. No job for you." What really matters is what you take back from the conference. The conference is not training you to be a diplomat, of course. It's training you to be a team player. It's teaching you lobbying, how to convince other people, speaking with confidence. And these are the skills that you take back and that are going to really help you out in life. With that being said, it was definitely a pleasure being here. And I would like to hand the floor to Krishiv and Ansh to speak a few words about committee and announce the awards.
Thank you, Ahan. So, firstly, personally, it was a great experience for me working with Ahan and Krishiv, two of the best in the business. Secondly, a huge shout out to the OC. You all were fantastic. And thirdly, with the level of delegates we had in the CCC, it was really arduous for us to pick awards. We literally had a 10-page mark sheet just to distinguish between awardees. So without further ado, let's get into it. We begin with the verbal mentions. The first verbal mention goes to the delegate of the United Kingdom, Karunya TCA, representing Rishi Sunak. A second verbal mention goes to the delegate of USA, Niyati Nagda, representing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Our high commendation goes to the delegate of Iran, Abhishek Patra, representing Abdul Nasser Hemati. And now I'd hand it over to our crisis coordinator, Krishiv Jain, to announce the Best Delegate Award and the all-important final crisis update. Over to you, Krishiv.
Thanks a lot, Ansh. Thanks a lot, Ahan. Two of the best people I've ever worked with till now. Thanks a lot to OC, Dhruv, Aaron, and Akanksha for letting me become the crisis coordinator for the CCC. I am a crisis delegate from head to toe, and I know with the amount of experience that the delegates came from and the level of directives they sent, I know for a fact that the delegates will make amazing crisis delegates in the future. They have the potential, and just more and more practice, they'll all be winning themselves in no time. For me, we've gone to 90, 100, 120 directives in total, probably. And the level, the amount of crisis updates I just had to give, I just had to, through my mind, see which directives clashes with which. It was fun, it was exhausting, but at the end of the day, as I said, it was fun. And that's all that matters. Again, without further ado, I will just go over the final crisis update. Wait, before that, I will actually have the best delegate. The best delegate, someone who covered all the crisis updates regarding him, someone who finished his personal objectives, someone who had influence over the entire committee, a delegate who had good speeches, good points, and definitely amazing directives. A delegate of the Russian Federation, General Vani.
Also, before going into the crisis update, we also have a special mention to the delegate of India, Kian Subaya, representing Narendra Modi. So congratulations, and over to the crisis update.
Delegates have all been waiting for, right? The military coup in Iran has failed. The Iranian president in exile, Abdul Nasser Hemati, has been stoned to death, and Iran has finally turned into a monarchy as a Russian ally. Juan Guaido, the president, one of the disputed presidents of Venezuela, has finally taken power. Maduro has been removed by his people for the invasion of Guyana, which wasted a lot of money and people just couldn't take it any longer. Korea has finally been unified, and under the right banners, the Republic of Korea now controls the entirety of the Korean Peninsula as a democratic government. India has finally taken over Sindh and Kashmir completely. And the last but not the least, the United States President Kamala Harris has been impeached. delegates with that will be moving. That's the end of the CCC. It was a pleasure it was a pleasure coordinating your crises. And thanks a lot to the OC and thanks a lot to you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are now moving on to the last committee, the committee that is believed to be the alpha committee at every MUN, the United Nations Security Council. Vatsal and the fellow executive board members, please take the forth.
Yeah. Hi, good evening, guys. It's been a long wait for my delegates, I know. So, you know what, I'll keep it as succinct as possible. But I'll just say one thing, this committee made me realize that, MUNs are a work of fiction, should be treated as such. We saw a lot of creative thinking in committee, mind-boggling. Let's just keep it at that. You know what? I'll have Tanishka read out the verbal mentions and special mentions, and we'll work to the best delegate that way. Go on, Tanishka.
Okay, so I'm not going to give a speech. I'm just going to go right to the awards. For verbal mention, we have the delegates of Argentina and Australia. Special mention goes to Japan. And Vatsal, do you want to take HiCom and Bestel?
Yeah, sure. HiCom goes to the delegate of Israel, and the Bestel goes to the delegate of the United States. All these guys were good. Very short committee, very small committee rather, but fun to be in. Take my word for it. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Congratulations to all, and that's it. Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Vatsal. Now, the moment that all of us have been waiting for, knowing as to who ended up being at the pinnacle of the conference, knowing who won the night crisis, getting to know as to who won the position of the best delegate of Podar Summit 2021, the delegate who.
No, but bro, before you tell them the delegate,
we're not telling the delegate. 1 second. I'll just give a brief. Then Avrat, I will have you take over. Who is my co-chairperson for Night Crisis? This delegate is probably a delegate who should now be get hired by different schools for being a Hindi tutor, for having immense amount of information about Indian affairs and world affairs in general as well. I would rather prefer having the position and the name of the delegate being announced by my co-chairperson, Avrat Parekh. Avrat, take over.
Yeah, right before I do that, let me tell you what we tried to do in the committee, right? Overall, just a second. I'm so sorry. So what we did is we did a futuristic scenario in 2030 where Rahul Gandhi is the Prime Minister of India, and people, like Amit Shah is in the opposition, etc. And Taiwan is militarily invaded by the People's Republic of China, and an ultimatum is given to the Indian government that you get us diplomatic recognition or you hand over the Taiwanese government in exile. Following which we had an update about how Indian Mujahideen got involved, then the LTTE was reinstituted. So it was a crisis mayhem. And more specifically, over to the delegate, about the delegate who won. This delegate, in my opinion, understands Indian politics far better than I think most of us here. And the way he spoke was, every time he'd be like, Ji Adarniya Sabhapati Mohdaya Ji. And it just goes to prove how seriously and how seriously he took Indian committees, which unfortunately we don't. And that's, I think we should really learn from individuals like this. So it was obviously Amit Shah, the leader of opposition in the Night Crisis Committee. Research impeccable, knowledge of the law, knowledge of the land impeccable, oratory impeccable. I think this delegate should actively take up a career in Indian politics. Overall, they say the Night Crisis is about creme de la creme, and the best of the best. And I genuinely witnessed that, and I was really impressed personally by. I mean, I've been through a lot of night crisis committees, but this was really nice. Shout out to all the EB members who joined in and graced the event, their presence, and special sort of thank you to Vatsal. I think you also were pretty commendable in terms of what you tried to put out. And of course, we're going to have our differences. We've always done, Vatsal. But I genuinely think that you're a very sharp mind, and
Thanks,
you
man.
should keep. You should actually not keep MUNing. You should actually start working for the UN. So great stuff. Thank you so much.
On the cards. Thank you, Abhiraj.
No problem.
So Prabal Mehrotra, who represented Amit Shah, won the Best Delegate Award of the Night Crisis. Now we will be moving to one of the most integral part of Podar Summit, the organizing committee and the organizing committee awards. So I would first like to call upon the heads of public relation, Khushi and Anmol. Please take it over.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Khushi. Summit has been something very personal to a lot of people, including me. As a 9th and 10th grader, I used to see our seniors organize it, and it honestly feels surreal to be in one of their positions today. The highlight of my working for Summit was getting to know this amazingly talented girl who not only accompanied me as my dep head, but also became a super close friend of mine through the way. I would like to thank Dhruv, Akanksha, and Aaron for being just a call away whenever I needed you. I gave you countless calls, and for just being so supportive. And coming to the team, I think we were extremely lucky to have the privilege of guiding this incredibly talented team. Tanisha, Mehak, Arunanshu, Chavi, Nehal, Sanjana. The 6 of you were the backbone of PR. Thank you so much for working the way that you did. Also, I don't think any of our meetings were shorter than 2 hours because all of them eventually turned into gossip sessions. And that, in my opinion, is something that I am going to miss the most. So I would like to now call upon Anmol to say a few words and give out the Best PR Award.
Well, you're not audible.
I am honestly so grateful for this opportunity. This was one of the experiences I'll always remember. The best part was getting to know these 6 amazing people and getting to learn so much from each and every one of them. I would especially like to thank Khushi for being so supportive, so helpful. No doubt she was she was the best head. And even the secretariat through Aaron and Akansha. Now coming to the award, this was a tough decision to choose one out of these 6 insanely hardworking people. So without further ado, the best peer member goes out to Chavi. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Chavi.
With that, we will now be moving on to the next organizing committee department, probably the backbone of any online event, that is the tech team. Aditya and Adil, please take it forth.
Good evening to all the members sitting here. My journey with Podar Summit started as an introverted tech member, and I believe that it had ended in an amazing experience in an amazing team. But a year later, I get a call from Dhruv saying he wants me to head the tech department, and I happily obliged to that. After a long time, Aditya and I were working again, and I don't think I could have got a better co-head to handle the entire Podar Summit. Moreover, the hardworking secretariat ensured that everything ran smoothly throughout. This year, the tech team had put a lot of hard work. All the members not only did all the work they were told to, but were always present to fix the issues as and when they arrived. As a head, I couldn't have asked more from my team.
All the members were always present, ready to work, whether it was editing a video till 3 a.m. or getting up at 6 a.m. to edit the same video again. Each moment with the team has been something to cherish. Out of all the MU and tech teams I have been a part of, Podar Summit by far has been the best experience. Thank you.
All right. So, firstly, I would like to say that it was an honor to work with such an experienced secretariat. I myself have headed various tech teams over the past year, but the Podar Summit tech team exceeded all my expectations and did a tremendous job. They put their heart and soul into making this event a successful one. Whether it be Dhruv and Parth working on videos till 3 in the morning, or Soham and Arav going through countless number of audios to find just the right one for the videos. All of them constantly worked hard and put in their 1000% to meet all their deadlines. I, along with Adil, started my journey in the tech field through Podar Summit. And this is where I found a love for something I never could have imagined. I hope my members find this same love that I did and had as good as a time participating in this as I did guiding them. Without moving forward, I would like to announce the award for the best tech member for Podar Summit 2021, which goes to Dhruv Mathur. Congratulations, Dhruv.
With that, we will be moving on to the next OC department. This particular OC department has the in-house Skipidalians and the Shashi Tharoors of Podar Summit 2021. Without any further ado, Manya and Shivatmika, please take it forth.
Good evening, everyone. Since the very beginning of this journey, the international press has been extremely overworked, but we magically found some time to write something for ourselves. So please bear with us because we have a long list of people to thank. So we would like to start by saying a thank you to our teachers for their constant support and encouragement and for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this glorious event. A big thank you to our Director General, Akanksha Chatterjee, for never losing her cool every time our captions would exceed her 2,200 character limit and for calling us at 11 p.m. for our emergency meetings.
Deputy Secretary General, Aaron Sir, 1, for always giving his valuable inputs, and for 2, making everything political. Secretary General Sir, Dhruv Verma, for being the best leader and in your own words, understanding how every team member cannot be their best at all times. We thank Dhruv for overworking us, but also for being the biggest cheerleader and cracking the most hilarious jokes during the most serious of times. The experience of working for Podar Summit would not have been complete without Dhruv. He's the coolest person in the whole world, and I will admit it today. Shivatmika, I think I found a good friend in you, and I will thank Dhruv for that. I think it's a match made in heaven. I've really found a good friend today. And last but not the least, we would also like to thank the design team. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I apologize in advance for all the terrible jokes that I'm going to crack in our meeting. And then it would be incomplete. The list of thank yous would be incomplete without thanking the IP team's go-to website for incorrect word meanings and terrible translations. Please check out Word Hippo if you want those. And Shivatmika, over to you.
This would be incomplete without thanking the head of international press, Manya, for not only being the most supportive and patient head of press, but also cracking jokes at the most serious of times and calming everyone down. International press is something that means a lot to the both of us. And we would also like to thank the dream team of IP and the most headstrong journalists that I have ever met, who made this experience 10 times better and pushed us to work even harder. I won't keep you all waiting for long. I will announce the special mentions and the best IP member. So the special mentions goes to the journalists of AIPPM, that's Vaishnavi Srivastav and Netra Venkatram, and the journalist of CCC, that is Vandana Malhotra and Muskan Mittal. And finally, the most awaited, the title for the Best International Press Member of Podar Summit 2021 goes to the journalists of MIB, Hitanshi Shah and Abhijit Sheshatri. Congratulations to all the winners and thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, Manya and Shivatmika. We are now going to go on to the in-house designers in the online MF events of Podar Summit 2021. The design team, Anushka and Avni. Anushka, please take it over.
The last few weeks have been crazy. I haven't slept properly in the last several days. I have missed meals and many school assignments, but I have loved every moment leading up to this one. From listening to songs at 3 a.m. while editing the newsletter, to watching Shane Dawson videos when we should actually have been working, to gossiping about the secretariat. I have learned so much in the process, not just in terms of technical skills required to execute the job, but also how to work together with a team, especially on an online platform. I have learned to make quick decisions and to trust my instincts. But most importantly, I have learned that leadership is not about being the best resource in the team, but about bringing out the best in every resource of the team. I'm delighted to have worked with such a phenomenal team who put in relentless effort to meet the tough deadlines time and time again. Be it Trisha and Kyra creating the various logos, or Sheetla and Kavya making the Instagram templates, or Naina and Ananya editing pictures for the website over and over again. I would especially like to thank my deputy head, Avni, for standing by me when I had breakdowns every night and for never failing to make me laugh. I would like to thank the Secretariat for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this incredible event that is Podar Summit. Since Avni isn't here, I'll be announcing the best member of the design team. Congratulations, Kyra.
With that, we will be moving on to the last OC department, the department meant for the sweetest of people that could ever exist, the delegate affairs team. Ananya, please take it forth from here.
Thank you, Dhruv. So greetings, everyone. I have prepared a speech, but if I stumble a bit, then just apologies in advance. But I started out my journey in Summit in Delegate Affairs last year when our Secretary General, my friend Dhruv Verma, actually gave me a call saying, hey, I'm in DA and we're taking auditions. Would you like to join? And that began my whole journey in Delegate Affairs. So thank you so much, Dhruv, for starting this journey and giving me this opportunity, because I really wanted to, contribute to Podar Summit. It's such a big event. And as Beer ma'am mentioned, I have truly gained a lot of experience, and it is an honor to be a part of the 11th edition of Podar Summit with such wonderful secretariat, OC heads, OC members, EB members, and delegates, and everyone has made this such a huge success. And firstly, I'd like to thank the 3 secretariat members, starting with Dhruv, who has been very determined and focused, no matter how many obstacles are thrown in this entire month of us working on it. He always found a way to get the job done, and I legit could not think of a better Secretary General for Podar Summit 2021. So thank you so much, Dhruv. Next, I'd like to thank our Deputy Secretary General, Aaron, who last year told me that it was his goal to be the DepSec Gen. And when he spoke to me, his tone, he seemed so determined, and genuinely, he totally deserves it, this position completely. I could not think of a better person. And Akansha, one of the sweetest and level-headed director generals out there. I've never seen her lose her calm during Summit while keeping all of the OC departments in check. I would like to also thank our principal and our teachers for giving us this opportunity to be a part of Summit this year. And I'd like to thank the OC heads, especially tech, who I've asked a lot of questions. I used to call them at any hour and ask them, because I'm not a very tech-friendly person. And next, I'd like to thank my DA team, my wonderful DA team. I could not have genuinely asked for a better team. This year, we had 8 committees, which puts a lot of work on DA, a lot of more committees, a lot of more delegates to call.
So thank you, Dhruv, Smera, Nusha, Arya, Tanushree, Chirayu, Ayushman, and Ritika. It was such a pleasure to be working with you all. The jokes we cracked, the friendships we made, I will cherish them all. And I will always remember those stupid inside jokes we had. And I wish you all success in your futures. Now, I would like to announce the best CA member. The best CA member for Podar Summit 2021 goes to Arya. Congratulations, your bubbly and enthusiastic personality and your readiness and keenness to work will take you a long way. Thank you so much, everyone, for making my time at Podar Summit a memorable one. Now, I would like to call upon our Secretary General, Dhruv Verma, to say a few words and set the conference closed.
So I'm probably not going to say a lot because I am going to cry by the end of this because this is too emotional. So as the Secretary General with the power vested in me, I set Podar Summit 2021 closed. Thank you so much, delegates.
Thank you, Dhruv, for a wonderful job. Thank you, students. God bless.